Imagine looking at your clock and realizing it hasn't moved for hours. Not just yours, every clock in the room. Every watch, every phone, frozen at the exact same second. Now imagine this doesn't happen in your house, but inside a secret military base. In June 1983, deep in the Nevada desert, a group of engineers claimed that time itself stopped. For exactly 3 minutes and 22 seconds, nothing moved. They called it the Kronos incident. And what you're about to hear was never supposed to leave that facility. The Kronos 12 facility doesn't exist on any public map. Its coordinates place it 40 miles north of Groom Lake, better known as Area 51. Officially, it was an electromagnetic communication testing site. Unofficially, it was experimenting with something no one truly understood. According to a declassified report obtained under the Freedom of Information Act, a signal test on June 11, 1983, went horribly wrong. The report simply reads, 047 hours, system overload detected. 048, all synchronized clocks stopped. 051, system reset manually. But that's only the beginning, because the cameras on site also froze. The film inside, blank. Every mechanical and digital device in the base stopped recording, as if time itself had been erased. There were 12 people inside the testing chamber that night. 3 of them later gave anonymous interviews to independent journalists in the late 1990s. One of them, known only as Engineer K, described it this way.
It was like a pause button on reality. The air became heavy, like underwater. I couldn't hear my own heartbeat. And then, a flash. Not bright, but loud. A loud flash.
Another technician, Sarah M., claimed that when time resumed, the wall clocks showed the same time, but her wristwatch had jumped forward 3 minutes and 22 seconds. If her story is true, that means time passed for her, but not for the base. For decades, the government denied everything. They said it was simply a power surge, an experimental generator malfunction, a technical error, nothing more. But that explanation doesn't fit, because the same document mentions biological effects among the staff, disorientation, memory gaps, even temporary blindness. And there's a handwritten note in the margin of one of those reports. If successful, this changes our understanding of temporal containment. What does that even mean? Temporal containment, containing time, or containing something inside time. In 2001, a hacker known as Eidolon claimed to have accessed part of the Kronos database. He released 17 megabytes of encrypted files. Among them, one strange photo. A blurry image showing a man standing inside a metallic chamber, his body slightly transparent, as if fading in and out. Metadata reveals the photo was taken at 3:47 a.m., the exact time the incident reportedly occurred. Experts couldn't explain the distortion. It wasn't double exposure. It wasn't motion blur. It looked like reality overlap. A physicist from MIT, when asked anonymously, said, "If these images are genuine, they show a localized temporal field, a small zone where the arrow of time doesn't point forward or backward." So, what could actually stop time even for a few minutes? Theory number 1. Magnetic time dilation. Some scientists believe intense electromagnetic fields can interfere with atomic clocks. If that's true, maybe the Kronos team pushed the field too far, slowing the perception of time itself. Theory number 2. Quantum bubble. Others suggest the experiment accidentally created a bubble of space where time temporarily looped, like a glitch in reality. Theory number 3. Weaponization. Conspiracy forums say Kronos wasn't about communication at all. It was a prototype for a stasis field, a weapon that could freeze targets in time. It sounds like science fiction, until you remember that Nikola Tesla once claimed to have built a device that could tear a hole in time. Could Project Kronos be its modern version? After the incident, 6 members of the Kronos team left the base. 2 months later, 3 of them vanished completely. No records, no families, gone. Their names were removed from the employee database, as if they never worked there. But one surviving family member spoke decades later. She said her brother came home that summer and was different. He barely slept. He kept all the clocks in his house covered. and the last thing he wrote in his diary before disappearing was chilling. It's not that time stopped, it's that something else started moving. Today, Kronos 12 is gone. Satellite images show only sand dunes and faint concrete outlines. No buildings, no signs, but one thing remains. A magnetic anomaly still detectable in that area. Compass needles spin when you walk across it. Cameras lose focus. Phones record static. Something is still there. And maybe, just maybe, time isn't linear after all. Maybe it's a loop, and every once in a while, it skips a beat. If time can stop once, what's stopping it from happening again? For years, Kronos 12 was dismissed as a myth, until a student from the University of Colorado found something strange in a forgotten archive. A magnetic field report dated June 11, 1983, the same night as the incident. It shows a spike so massive it shouldn't exist outside of a nuclear explosion. Yet no blast was ever recorded. When the student tried to publish his findings, the report vanished from the university database within 24 hours. Luckily, he kept a printed copy. At the bottom of the page, a handwritten note. Signal stabilized 03:47 a.m. Local time distortion confirmed. The timestamp matches the frozen clocks. Dr. Marcus Halden was a physicist obsessed with the Kronos case. He spent 10 years tracking down ex-employees, satellite images, anything connected to the base. He believed the experiment created what he called a temporal echo, a kind of scar in space-time that repeats itself every few decades. In 2013, he went to Nevada to measure radiation near the alleged site. His instruments picked up rhythmic magnetic pulses, 3 minutes and 22 seconds apart, the exact duration of the original blackout. 3 weeks later, Halden disappeared. All that remained in his hotel room was his recorder still running. On the tape, you can hear his last words. It's happening again. The air feels heavy, like 1983. Then, silence. Psychologists who studied the surviving engineers found something disturbing. They all drew the same symbol during interviews, a spiral with a broken line through the center. One of them explained, "That's what I saw when time stopped. It wasn't darkness. It was a spiral turning the wrong way." Doctors labeled it temporal displacement stress. But one therapist noticed the drawings were done with uncanny precision, as if the patients were sketching from memory, not imagination. Could they have glimpsed the internal structure of time itself? In 2020, a retired Air Force operator leaked a cassette labeled K-12 Test 04. It was recorded the night of the experiment. The first 2 minutes are pure static. Then a voice whispers, "Containment breach. The field is expanding." Another voice answers, "How long have we been inside?" "We don't know." After that, a single beep, repeated 23 times. Then the tape ends. Sound engineers confirm the frequency of the beep corresponds to 3 minutes, 22 seconds. Coincidence, or the last measurement before the world froze? In 2017, an anonymous caller reached a local radio show in Utah that covers unsolved cases. He claimed to be a former Kronos guard. His voice trembled as he spoke.
"We were told it was a communications test. When everything stopped, I saw shadows still moving. Not people, shadows."
The host asked him what happened next.
"They told us not to talk. They said time didn't stop for them. Only for us."
Before the host could ask another question, the line went dead. Tracing the call led nowhere. But the number came from a payphone in a town that doesn't exist anymore. Silver Pass, Nevada. Demolished in 2018. 2 years later, satellites detected another electromagnetic anomaly. Not in Nevada, but in Siberia. The same pulse pattern, every 3 minutes and 22 seconds. Scientists called it a natural resonance, but independent researchers compared it to the Kronos waveform, and it's identical. If the pattern moved from the US to Russia, could the temporal field be drifting across the planet? And if so, what happens when it passes through a city? A leaked NATO memo titled Operation Silence Protocol mentions containment of electromagnetic temporal anomalies. It orders that any unexplained magnetic field be classified as a national-level secrecy priority. In simple words, if it happens again, we'll never hear about it. But one sentence at the end stands out. Under no circumstance should civilians be informed of Kronos-type events. Meaning, there might have been more than one. An independent group of scientists in Prague recently tried to replicate Kronos' results on a smaller scale. Using superconductive rings and plasma fields, they managed to slow an atomic clock by 1/1,000,000th of a second. Tiny, but real. If they can scale it up, they might create the same conditions that froze Kronos 12. But here's the catch. They noticed side effects on their equipment, data corruption, camera glitches, and one experimenter reporting that for a brief moment, his reflection moved before he did. Researchers later analyzed that spiral symbol drawn by survivors. When placed over satellite images of the old base, the lines matched the exact layout of underground tunnels discovered by LiDAR scans. The base itself was built in the shape of the spiral. It wasn't random. It was a machine, maybe not designed to hold people, but to bend reality. In 1996, a freight train outside Denver disappeared from radar for, 3 minutes and 22 seconds. When it reappeared, the crew said they saw the landscape flicker, as if night turned to day and back again in a heartbeat. The official report blamed instrument error, but one of the engineers later admitted off record that the metal of the train cars was warm to the touch, as if it had traveled through something. Could Kronos' temporal field have resurfaced there? Digital forensics experts who studied the leaked Kronos audio discovered that the 23 beeps encode a binary sequence. When translated, it spells K12 open. Some interpret it as a distress call. Others believe it was a command to reopen the field. If that's true, then every time the pulse repeats somewhere on Earth, it might be responding to that signal. In other words, the experiment never really ended. Maybe Kronos wasn't about freezing time. Maybe it was about escaping it. Imagine a loop so small you could hide a moment inside it. A single second that never ends. If the scientists managed to step inside that loop, they wouldn't age. They wouldn't move forward. They'd still be there, forever reliving the instant when the world stopped. Some legends say that on quiet desert nights, you can still hear faint ticking under the sand. Not from a clock, but from a heartbeat trapped outside of time. We started with a simple question. Can time be stopped? But after everything we've uncovered, the documents, the witnesses, the disappearances, maybe the better question is, should it be? If Kronos 12 truly created a temporal echo, then the loop might reopen one day. And when it does, those 3 minutes and 22 seconds may return and swallow everything around them. Clock ticks faster, then stops. What time is it? Where you are right now? Are you sure it's moving?